Hi YouTube, Tamara here, and I have brought with me a special guest. Meet Beth Teliho.
Hi.
Beth is a writer, artist, and tree hugger who lives in Texas with her husband and two adventurous sons. Restless in the mundane, she writes about the abnormal, paranormal, and otherwise fantastical because that's what quickens her heartbeat. She laughs at inappropriate jokes and prefers spicy food and margaritas to almost anything. One day she hopes to live in a treehouse where she could be as an eccentric introvert with at least 7 cats. Welcome to the show, Beth.
Good job making it through that bio. That was not easy to read out loud, probably. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. This is exciting.
This is exciting. You guys don't know, but Beth and I have tried to connect and do this hangout several times, and something kept happening and going wrong. But the stars have aligned, and we can finally do it.
Yes.
So I'm incredibly excited. And Beth is here today to tell us about her latest release, and it's called Order of the Seven, and it is a paranormal young adult novel. And Beth, could you tell us more about your book?
Yes. It is probably in its bones, it's a mystery with a lot of ancient history involved in archaeology. And there is paranormal, there is fantasy, there's a lot going on in it. And it is young adult, but it's really enjoyed by everybody. I say 16 to 106 is the perfect, that's a great demographic, that whole 16 to 106 demographic. So I market it under young adult because the main character, Devi, is 18. But I think that her adventure and journey is perfect for everybody. Everybody in the world.
Everybody love this book. All of you buy it.
Buy 10. Everyone will love it.
Well, what inspired Order of the Seven?
I wanted to write something that I either wasn't finding myself on the bookshelves or that was a combination of everything I loved. So I love books like Da Vinci Code and Outlander, that there's actual factual things that it's based on with their own creative spin on it, that you're learning something about history or art or whatever that you don't even know you're learning. That accidental education on stuff is fascinating to me. So I loved that. I love when there's a little angst, romance, taboo love stuff going on. I love mystery and the suspense and the thriller part of it. So I kind of wanted to combine all of that into one. So that's what inspired this particular story. The ideas for this story happened over years, and all kinds of things inspired it. Other people's travel, places I've been, a lot of research. I love researching. You and I have talked about that. That's our favorite part. Love researching. And a lot of the ideas were born from research. Looking something up about a certain place in Mexico, and I find out it has all this stuff completely relevant to the story, and then that gets to make its way into the story. And so, yeah, there was a lot of inspirations, but the main thing was writing something that I wanted to read, that I would like to find on a bookshelf and love.
Fantastic. So who is your favorite character and why?
Out of my novel?
Yes.
Yes. My favorite character? Gosh, that is a tough thing to answer. I think that the main character, Devi, that's who I know the best and who I'm most in tune with. But there's a soft place in my heart for her brother, Nodin. There's a lot about him that I relate to, and that he's a special character to me.
Awesome. So, what was your biggest obstacle while you were writing?
Self-doubt. 100% it was self-doubt. It was my first novel to write. along the way. I didn't really know if I was going to finish it. Was I good enough? Could I actually pull this off? Was I the type of person that could write a book? And so anytime there was a setback, whether it be edits I received or just self-doubt in general, that would stall me because I was new and wasn't sure of myself yet. And I would take a few months off and think, oh, I can't do this, or I'll never finish this. And then I would kind of recharge and get some confidence back and go back at it. So I think self-doubt was my biggest, and I hope that that is not an obstacle going forward. I mean, I think writers have that no matter what with any project, but not to the extent you do your first one, because you're not sure if you're actually doing anything right, or if anyone's going to like it, or if you're going to pull this off. So
I think it's funny that you say, if that you were afraid that you couldn't do it. I think that's something that the first book, you have to face that. You have to confront the fear of, can I do this? Do I have this ability?
Yeah. And it's scary. You're putting your soul on the page. You have no idea how it's going to be responded to. The whole thing could be a disaster, So it's really, you're handing someone your, blood, sweat, and tears and your soul, and you're just, oh, please let them like it. Please make the last couple of years of my life have been worth something, It's really scary. It's a lot.
It is a lot. But I think you've come to the other side very well.
Thank goodness. Yes. I'm very pleased with how everything's gone. So yeah, now, and that gives me a lot of confidence. Now I kind of feel like validated, like, yeah, I'm a writer, dang it. Yes, I'm an author. Damn right I'm an author.
Fantastic. Speaking of authors, who has influenced you the most?
I grew up reading Stephen King. And so although I read a lot of authors, and even the Nancy Drew books, I loved the mystery and Nancy Drew when I was little. I was reading that, but from like 12 or 13 on, I was reading Stephen King. And he was a huge influence. I love his writing. I love his style. I love the pace of his books. I love that there's no limit to his imagination. If you're going to write a whole book about burying pets and them coming back, he's going to do it. There's no limit. So I think that shaped me into, just having a very open imagination and kind of liking the things that are a little off, things that aren't your everyday story, but there's something a little spooky or weird or paranormal going on. So I have a lot of authors I love, but I will say he was probably my biggest influence.
I still shudder when I think about the dark half.
Or It with the clown.
Oh gosh.
That's the worst.
My mom was going to ground me from reading the rest of It because I was so freaked out, because I'm like hyper aware of things and I startle very easily anyway.
Oh, but yeah, that's not good.
I was so tense all the time. And my mom was like, Tamara, I don't think you should finish reading this. And I was like, Mom, if I don't finish it, then I'll never know how it ends.
And it's like the longest book ever, too. That was a big book.
Yeah, it was huge. I was in the 6th grade. All right, that made me feel old. Moving along.
That's intense to read at that age. Sorry, was that the...
That's okay. Do you think that you'll ever write in a different genre?
Yeah, I do. I already know that there's, I've got an idea brewing for a children's book, actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, kind of based on my own struggles with anxiety that I had growing up, and my youngest son is also struggling with anxiety now. So, we always talk about beating your worries, and so I really would like to do a children's book where we talk about beating your worries and, beating that monster anxiety and strategies to do that, but super simple little picture book type of thing to make it very readable and ingestible by, even little kids like 2nd, 3rd grade. So I know I'd have that in the back of my mind, but I do think I'll write in a different genre. I mean, there's also, something that I didn't expect is that my kids were really frustrated they couldn't read this book. And I didn't expect, that kind of took me by surprise. And I thought, God, I feel terrible. I do want them to read it and their friends to be able to read it. And, I go talk to their class and they all want to know things about the book. And, well, you can't read it yet, but maybe your older brother or sister can. So I kind of love to write something, for them, for something that their average 10-year-old could read or whatever. And so that's kind of motivated me to think about that, something that's a little bit brought down a notch that they could read it too. I would love that.
That makes me think of like the famous actors like Eddie Murphy and Johnny Depp and stuff who were doing all of those very adult movies, but then once they had children, they started doing these stuff that were kid related so that they could watch it too.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And I never thought a million years that would be something that I would be like, oh, gosh, it does kind of suck that they can't read it. I want to write something they can read too. So yeah, that'll be a motivating factor for sure in some future books that I write.
Okay, so we talked about the struggle of that self-doubt.
Oh, yeah.
What advice would you give to other writers who are struggling finishing their first novel?
One really helpful piece of advice when I was first writing, and I think this is really common with a lot of writers, especially new writers, it was a completely isolated endeavor. I was not telling anybody. I was not sharing my work with anybody. I was very possessive of it and vulnerable. I didn't want anyone to see it, and it's not ready yet. It's not ready yet. I think I actually watched a webinar once through some people somehow associated with NaNoWriMo, and they were talking about how important it is that you get other people to read your work and get feedback. That if you are not having other people read your work, it might as well be sitting in a drawer, getting dusty and, old and whatever. It's just never going to evolve until you start getting feedback. And you don't have to get an editor right away. Have a friend read it, and then maybe move on to maybe some author friends reading it, or join a writer's group. There's tons of things you can do, but that is truly the first thing that moved me beyond just writing alone in my house and not even telling anyone really, and the huge mountain of self-doubt. And then little by little, I got more confident, and I got feedback that helped it move forward. And so, yeah, that's one of my biggest pieces of advice, is that you got to show it to other people. It hurts, it's scary, but it's rewarding, and it's the only way you're going to move forward.
Okay, well, I will take that into heart because I am finishing my first fiction novel. So I am going to show it and share it with people.
Do it. Do it.
So my final question, have you started on your next one?
I have started it, but I have paused because things have been so busy since the release of Order of Seven that it's been difficult for me I'm spending a lot of time working on interview questions and promoting, and it's kind of taken away a little bit from that creative part. So I'm taking a breather, to kind of recharge that. And I don't want to write because I have to. I want to be inspired. You know how that feels. You want to get in the character's head and get an idea. And right now it feels a little forced. So I know that means I need to take a break. And a break is just a couple weeks, but it's something that I did put on hold for the month of May. So while I have projects started and the next book started, it is not moving forward until I feel like that creativity is sparking.
Wonderful. Well, Beth, I am so glad that we were finally able to chat.
Yay! Me too.
Thank you so much for being so patient with all of the technical difficulties. I do appreciate it.
My pleasure. It was fun, Tamara. Thank you.
So everyone, thank you so much for checking out this little webinar. And, well, it wasn't a webinar. It was just a conversation. Thanks for checking out this Q&A.
Live conversation. Thank you.
And I will leave the links in the description for Beth's blog and for the Order of Seven on Goodreads, so you can check that out, put it on your want to read list, or, you know, make that next step and buy it. So you guys will catch me once again in another video. Thank you so much, and I'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.